Hi, today we're going to learn about finding exact values using sum and different formulas. So what I'm going to go over is the sum and difference formula and why we use them. So here we have the sum and different formulas. I'm not going to say it all out loud, but if you need to pause the video to copy it, go ahead, or you can just print out the PDF. Okay, for the formulas. So why do we even use this? Why do we have to use the sum of formulas? So example one says find the exact value of cosine of 75. Why can't you just 75 degrees? So why can't you just put it in the calculator and get your decimal, right? So if you put cosine of 75, you get it says about 2 approximately 2.5, so 2.58, so that's rounded to 2.6, right? And then that should be your answer. But why we use sum and difference formula, in my honest opinion, it's just a way, it's just more a precise way to find the angle. So what I mean precise is meaning your answer will probably be in radical form, some kind of radical. So let's start with example one. Says cosine 75. So first off, you got to think of what two angles in your unit circle that when added or even subtracted can give you 75. So I'm going to do the addition, right? So what two angles make when you add two angles in your unit circle will give you 75. That would be so 75 degrees is the same thing as 30 degrees plus 45 degrees, right? Okay. So yeah, so 30 and 45, that's our angle. So what we're going to do is use formula 3. So use formula 3. So if you want to go back, here's formula 3 is right here, right? And then just replace u with 30 degrees and v with 45, right? That's all we have to do. So we'll use formula 3 and then u as 30 degrees and v is 45 degrees. Yep, so that's what we'll do. So let me just write let me rewrite the formula 3. So formula 3 is cosine of u plus v times sine of v. So all we got to do is plug in u with 30 and v with 45. So that's what I'll do. So cosine of 75 degrees equals to cosine of u, which is 30 degrees, parentheses, cosine of v, which is 45 degrees, minus sine of u, which is 30 degrees, times sine of v, which is 45 degrees, right? Okay, so we just got to simplify using your unit circle. Do not put cosine 30 and put a decimal, so don't do that. Just use your unit circle. So in your unit circle, what is cosine of 30? Cosine of 30 is exactly radical 3 over 2. What is, in your unit circle, what is cosine of 45? That's exactly radical 2 over 2. Oh, this is radical 3 over 2. Did I say that? Okay, minus, and then sine of 30 is exactly 1/2. Times it by sine of 45, which is the same thing as radical 2 over 2. Okay, go ahead and simplify. So radical 3 times radical 2 is radical 6 over 2 times 2 is 4 minus 1 times radical 2 is radical 2 all over 4. So when you simplify this, this is just radical 6 minus radical 2 all over 4. So this is your final answer. And you're probably thinking, wait a minute, why doesn't this equal to 0.26? It actually does. Because like if you actually put these numbers in a calculator, so if you put radical 6 minus radical 2 divided by all over 4, you get exactly 0.26. But when they say exact value, they want your answer in radical form. So this is why this is your correct answer. So that's why we pretty much use the sum and difference form to just actually get a more precise answer. Okay. Example 2, find sine of pi over 12. Find the exact, this is exact, sorry. Find the exact value of sine over pi over 12. So pi over 12 is a radiant degree. So I don't like radians, I like degree, right? So you can convert that to degrees. So how do you convert that? This replace the pi with 180 and then 12, and that gives you 15, right? Exactly 15 degrees. So this is where you're going to need your unit circle. What two angles when added, or what two angles minus when you minus two of those numbers gives you 15 degrees. Oh, well, I don't know any two numbers that'll add that'll give you 15 degrees, so we're going to eliminate addition. So what about two numbers that I'll subtract gives me 15 degrees? We could use 60 degrees and 45 degrees, right? Because 60 degrees minus 45 degrees, remember, these are all the numbers in your unit circle. I'm not just making these up. Equals 15 degrees, okay? If you want, you can put everything in radians form, right? So 60 degrees in radians form is the same thing as pi over 3 minus, and then 45, pi over 4 is the same thing as, 45 degrees is the same thing in radians is pi over 4. So remember, when you're subtracting, you need a common denominator. So this is a 4 here, 4 here. This is a 3 here, 3 here. So that would be 4 pi minus 3 pi is pi over 12, right? So that's how you know you. So now we got to figure out what formula we're going to use to figure this out. So we did subtraction, so we're going to use formula 2. Where u equals what? Pi over 3 or 60 degrees. Let's just keep it in radians because our answer, they want in, yeah, let's just keep it in radians, so pi over 3. And then our v is what? 45 degrees or pi over 4. Okay, so let me rewrite sine formula number 2. So formula number 2 is sine of u minus v equals sine of u cosine of v minus cosine of u times sine of v, right? Okay, so we just gotta plug it in. So that's like saying pi over 3 minus pi over 4 equals sine of u, which is pi over 3, times cosine of v is pi over 4, minus cosine of u, which is pi over 3, and then sine of v, which is pi over 4. Okay, and then just get out your unit circle and try to figure out what these numbers are. So what is the sine of pi over 3? In your unit circle, it is radical 3 over 2. Cosine of pi over 4 is the same thing as radical 2 over 2 minus cosine, oops, don't write that again. I meant, what is the cosine of pi over 3, which is 1/2? And then the sine of pi over 4 is radical 2 over 2. So when you simplify this is going to be radical 6 over 4 minus radical 2 over 4. So that simplifies as your final answer is radical 6 minus radical 2 all over 4. Okay. Okay, next one. Now, example 3 says find the exact value of, now it's kind of like going backwards. They have it in formula, in this the difference formula. We just gotta simplify. So if you go back to your angles, go back to your angles. What on the right side? We're not looking on the right side. What angle has a sine and a cosine, and then a minus, cosine, and then a sine? That's formula number 2, right? So if you recall formula number 2, let me write it again. Sine of u minus v equals sine of u cosine of v minus cosine of u sine of v, where u equals what? What do you think? U would be 42 degrees, and then v would be 12 degrees, right? Okay, so remember, we're only caring about the left side, right? Because we already have the right side of the equation, so we don't care about the right side anymore. So the right side is just going to be sine of u minus v. So if u is 42 degrees minus v, which is 12 degrees. So that's going to be sine of 30 degrees. And then in your unit circle, what is sine of 30 degrees? It's exactly 1/2. Okay, so your final answer is 1/2. Okay. Example 4, prove this cofunction, prove cosine parentheses pi over 2 minus x equals sine of x. So if you can, is there a formula you can use that looks very similar to the left, where you have a cosine and then it's a number minus another number? What formula would that be on your formula sheet? It would be formula number 4, right? Where u equals pi over 2 and v equals x, right? Okay, so we're gonna simplify right now the left side. So we're gonna use, so this would be simplified as cosine of pi over 2 times cosine, because how I'm getting this is I'm using formula number 4, cosine of x plus sine parentheses pi over 2 times sine of v, which is x, sine of x, equal the right side, so sine of x. So cosine of pi over 2 is what? That's 0. And then times it by cosine of x, because it's just x, plus sine of pi over 2 is actually positive 1 times sine of x, right? Equals sine of x. So let's see, we're close. 0 times anything is going to be 0 plus, and then 1 times sine of x is just sine of x equals the sine of x. So our last statement is true because this simple on the left is just simplified as sine of x equals sine of x, right? So this, you just proved your statement. Okay, so let's do another example. It says simplify the expression cosine parentheses theta minus 3 pi over 2. So using your formulas, what formula has a cosine and then a number times a number minus another number, that would be formula number 4, right? So that would be formula number 4. And then what are you going to use as your u and your v? Your u is going to be theta, and your v is going to be 3 pi over 2. So go ahead and simplify the the right side, your simplified formula number 4. So this would be, so we're just doing the right side. So the left side is this, cosine of theta minus 3 pi over 2 equals, and then it's going to be cosine of u, which is theta, times cosine of v, which is cosine of 3 pi over 2. My bad, this is not a 4, this is a 2. And plus sine of u, which is theta, times sine of v, which is 3 pi over 2. So this simplifies as cosine of 3 pi over, so cosine of theta is just cosine of theta, right? Cosine of 3 pi over 2 is just 0, plus sine of theta, and then sine of 3 pi over 2 is negative 1. Okay. So this is going to be 0, and then this is going to be negative sine theta. So your final answer is just negative sine theta. That was example 5. We just simplified that expression. Let's do another simplification. So in example 6, simplify tan of theta plus 3 pi. So if you look at your formulas, what formula has a tangent and inside the parentheses these two numbers when added together? So that would be formula number 5, right? And then what is your u and what is your v? So your u is going to be theta, and then your v is going to be 3 pi. Okay, so if you use the formula number 5, it would be like this: tan of theta plus 3 pi over 2. Not 3 pi over 2, 3 pi equals tan of theta, or tan of u, which is theta, plus tan of v, which is 3 pi, all over 1 minus tan of u, or tan of theta, times tan of v, which is 3 pi. So that equals tan of theta plus, what is the tangent of 3 pi? 3 pi is like, it's the same thing as 2 pi. Well, 3 pi is what, you're just going around the unit circle 3 times. So it'd be 1, 2, 3. So it's right here. It's the same thing as 2 pi over 0, right? So the coordinate of 2 pi over 0 is 1, 0. This is your x, this is your y. So remember, tan is the same thing as y over x. So tan of 3 pi is going to be same coordinates of this, so it's going to be 0 over 1, right? So that it's going to be 0, not undefined. So this is going to be 0 divided by, or all over, 1 minus tan of theta, right? And then times it by tan of 3 pi, which is 0. So this simplifies as, on the top, tan theta, right? And then on the bottom, you have 1 minus 0, right? 1 minus 0. That's just going to be 1. So your final answer is going to be tan of theta. Okay, number 7, example 7. What are we doing? It says find all solution. So we have to find all solution of sine of x plus pi over 4 plus sine of x minus pi over 4 equals to -1. And then it has a boundary. I didn't say it was given the boundary from 0 to 2 pi parentheses. So let's just break it down into two parts. So let's break it down to this part, and then we have this part. So yeah, let's simplify the left side of the equation. So starting with this sine of x plus pi over 4, what formula would you use? Where a sine, and then you have two additions, so two numbers unadded. That's going to be formula number 1, right? And then you're going to let u equals x, and then v equals pi over 4. Okay, now let's look at this part, sine of x minus pi over 4. What formula are you going to use where you have a sign and then two numbers subtraction? That's going to be number 2, right? Where u equals x and v equals pi over 4. Okay, so let's start with this one. So when you simplify that, that's going to be sine of x times cosine of v, which is pi over 4, plus cosine of x times sine of pi over 4. Okay, so we simplified. So this is what it looks like. And then plus, okay, so this part right here, only this part was this part. Now let's simplify this, sine of x minus pi 4. That's going to be, I'll put it in bracket just to make it easier, sine of x times cosine of pi over 4 minus cosine of x times sine of pi over 4, parentheses, bracket, and that should equal to -1, right? Okay, so now all we got to do is simplify. So this is going to be, starting here, this is just sine of x. Cosine of pi over 4 is the same thing as radical 2 over 2 plus cosine of x times sine of pi over 4, which is radical 2 over 2. Okay. Then over here, this is going to be radical, so that's just sine of x times cosine of pi over 4 is radical 2 over 2 minus cosine of x times sine of pi over 4 is radical 2 over 2, bracket equals to -1. What cancels? So if you simplify, the cancel is radical 2, and then the cosine, sorry, this is cosine x, this cancels as well as this thing. Okay, so then you're left with this thing and this thing, right? So you have sine of x times radical 2, sine of x times radical 2 over 2, and then sine of x times radical 2 over 2. They're pretty much the same thing. So this is like a 1, and this is another 1. So that's like 2. So it's just like 2 sine of x times radical 2 over 2 equals to -1. What do I want to do? I want to get rid of 2, so I'm going to divide both x by 2. This cancels, so you're left with sine of x times radical 2 over 2 equals to -1. And then what would you do next? I would somehow, oh, I see that the 2 cancels. I didn't see that. Yeah, these 2 cancels right here. So you're left with sine of x of radical 2 equals to -1. And then let's get rid of this radical 2 by dividing both sides by radical 2. So you get sine of x equals -1 over radical 2. But you know you can't have a radical in the denominator, so rationalize the top and denominator by multiplying top and bottom by radical 2. So you get sine of x equals -1 times radical 2 is negative radical 2 over 2. And then you could stop here. This is like saying what degrees radians is going to give you a sine of negative radical 2 over 2. So you'll need your unit circle. Okay, so on your unit circle, where is sine negative radical 2 over 2? That's going to be in quadrant 3 and quadrant 4. So in quadrant 3, that would be 5 pi over 4, right? And in quadrant 4, it's going to be 7 pi over 4, right? So your two x values are going to be 5 pi over 4, and then the other one is 7 pi over 4, because we can't go over the unit circle once, because it's from 0 to pi. Okay, I hope that one. Let's do, I think that's, do the last one. Okay, so find the exact value of the trigonometric function given that sine of u equals 5 over 13, and then cosine of v equals -3 over 5. And then they also tell you, I didn't write this, but they also say that they are both in quadrant 2. Quadrant 2. So that's a bit extremely helpful. I mean, that's a big clue how to do this. So what I would do is draw a triangle for both letters. So for both u and v. So let me draw the triangle for just for u. So this is for u. So on u, we have sine of 513, right? And we have to be in quadrant 2. So be in quadrant 2. Draw your triangle. Here's u. And then u says 5 over 13. What is sine again? Sine is the same thing as y over radius, right? So this y, the y is going to be 5, so this is going to be 5, and then the radius is like the hypotenuse, so this is 13. The thing is, we got to find this distance, this x value, this horizontal distance. How would we find it? We could use the Pythagorean theorem, so using a squared plus b squared equals c squared, so we could do 5 squared plus b squared equals to 13 squared. That's going to be 25 plus b squared equals to 13 squared, and then 13 squared is 169. Subtract 25 from both sides. So this cancels, just left with b squared equals 169 minus 25 is 144. Okay, take the square root of both sides. Get b equals 12. Okay, so this is 12, but remember because we are in quadrant 2, we're going to use -12. Okay, so they say that sine is so wait, this is what we need to find, sine of u plus v. And the reason why I'm drawing two, you'll see why I'm drawing two triangles for each u and v, because we're gonna need it. We're gonna need to find sine of u and cosine of u. So we have to, that's why I'm doing it for each triangle. So if sine, this is what was given, sine of u equals positive 513. Let's just find cosine of u real quick, because I know we're gonna use the half angle formula, and they're always gonna ask for cosine of u. So cosine of u is the same thing as what? X over radius, right? So if my x value is -12, and then my radius is 13, okay? Now let's draw the triangle for the v. So here's V, and then they say they're both in quadrant 2, so that's what we'll use. So I'm going to draw my triangle in quadrant 2. So they say that cosine of V equals to -3/5, right? And if you recall, cosine is the same thing as x over radius. So this horizontal is your x values, which is -3. And then your 5 is what's called the radius or the hypotenuse. So this is going to be +5. We just got to find this missing length. How do we find that missing length? Is using the Pythagorean theorem. So it's going to be -3 squared plus this length. I don't know, we'll call it b squared equals to radius square, or what is it? A squared plus c squared, because radius is the same thing as b, so that would be 5 squared, which is 25. Okay, so whoops, no, let's just do 5 squared right now. So this is -3 squared is 9 plus b squared equals 5 squared is 25. Subtract 9, subtract 9, you get b squared equals 25 minus 9 is 16. Take the square root of both sides. You get b equals +4. So this distance from here to here is +4. Okay, so they say that cosine of v is -3/5. Let's find sine of v, because I have a feeling we're going to need sine of v. So sine of v is going to be y over radius, so that's going to be 4/5. Okay, so what we're going to do is we got to find sine of u plus v, right? So that's going to be formula 1, right? So the formula would be, this would be sine of u times cosine of v plus cosine of u times sine of v, right? So that's why these triangles will come in handy, because so sine of u plus v equals, so cosine, so it's going to be sine of u, which is what is sine of u? Yeah, sine of u. So here's our sine, our u triangle. Sine of that would be +513. This is going to be +513 times what is cosine of v? So here's our v triangle. Cosine of v is -3/5 plus cosine of u, which is, here's cosine triangle. I mean the u triangle, so cosine of that would be -12/13. And then times it by sine of v. So here's the v triangle. So sine of v is +4/5. Okay, so if you were to clean this up, you would get hold on. Oops, so you would get this would be, when you multiply this, 513 times -3/5 is -15/65 plus, and then -12 times 4 is -48/65. So that's going to be, your final answer is going to be -63/65. Okay, so that's it. That pretty much wraps it up for this section. You have a great day. Bye-bye.